and welcome to Influence and Growth Mastery Podcast. Today, I am celebrating my 100th podcast, and we're going to dive deep into the world of podcasting and technology. I'm your host, Tanya Gossage, and we truly have an exceptional guest with us today. She is the CEO of Capsho, the world's first AI-powered podcast copywriter platform. And she's an industry leader in podcasting. Without further ado, please welcome Deidre Shing. Deidre, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
I was saying, Tanya, 100 episodes. That is amazing. You blow me away.
Well, I tell you, and that's been just a little over a year. Honestly, it's amazing that I have done that. I was so nervous about starting podcasting, I'll just tell you. Yeah. But once I did that first one, I was like, I am all in, all in. It is. It's amazing. And I would do it 8 hours a day if I could. But I tell you, so it's amazing to have you here. I cannot tell you how excited that I am. And when I started thinking about the 100th episode, I've told everybody, I know who I want. It was not even a thought, a second guess of who I wanted. I've wanted you from the inception of the 100th. Yes, I'm telling you. So let's do this. Yes. Could you start by sharing a little bit about you and then the inspiration behind Capsho and how it's evolved since its inception?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so a little bit about me. I don't know what to say. I'm Aussie. You might be able to tell from my accent. Based in Austin, Texas now, and having a ball over here in the States. We that's something that you guys say, right? You have a blast, a blast.
Yes, a ball, a blast, all of it.
We moved over 4 years ago, and we were actually living in New York City. Wow. So when we moved to New York City, and then we actually just moved to Austin right at the beginning of this year, 2023. It's like all things business took us everywhere. So how Capsho kind of came about was a whole mix of things happening, as you can probably imagine. On the one hand, and we have this in common, actually, Tanya. I have a background in banking as well. That was my corporate background.
And I love it.
Yeah. So we're two peas in a pod for sure. But when I was in banking, one of the positions that I had was I actually ended up heading up the innovation team. And so one of the things that I was tasked with was looking at emerging technologies and how they could be applied within banking. Now, this was over 10 years ago. And so that really ages me too, by the way, but that was what I was doing. And so that was when I started nerding out of things like AI, blockchain, all of the emerging technologies that were kind of coming about. And so that was like on one hand, something that was happening. On the other hand, I had actually also started my own entrepreneurship journey. It feels very left field now, given what we're doing, but I started in hospitality. My husband and I, we opened a dessert bar to begin with. It's called the Chockpot in Sydney. We grew that to 5 locations, and then we also opened 2 burger restaurants alongside that. So that was kind of, the fun, like the entrepreneurship part. Now, I say it's fun. It is fun. Entrepreneurship itself is fun. Hospitality it's hard. It's a hard business to be in. And one of the hard things as well that happened was that at the end of 2018, we found out one of our store managers had been stealing from us hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a lot of money. And that was probably the catalyst or the trigger moment, I guess, to be like, is this what we want to be doing? Is this really what we want to be focusing on? And we decided that it wasn't. And so at the time, I was exploring this fashion technology idea with Bonner, who's also another co-founder in Capsho. And that's actually what we moved to New York to explore this fashion technology idea. So that was 4 years ago. So fast forward a little bit, we ended up failing that business. We fell into digital marketing agency work for e-commerce businesses. COVID hit. We then transitioned online into coaching. And that's when I started my first podcast. That was 3 years ago now. And it was, it was hard. It was tough. I think everyone knows, and I'm sure you know this firsthand as well, Tanya, that the podcast, the fun part is this, right? Is having these conversations. It's, finding out more about people. But then, when you set live and you have to market the thing, and especially for me, I was very much like, I'm quite economically minded. So I was like, how is this podcast actually moving the dial for the coaching business? And it wasn't when we launched. And it's because of some fundamental things that we had to figure out, like the fact that we had to actually market the podcast, which wasn't fun, and it was hard. And so that one thing led to another, and that's kind of how Capture came about, because once we understood that it's not really, and Tonya, I know that you were in Molly's boot camp with me that Molly and I co-hosted, but she talks about the fact that it's not about the actual content that you're creating, it's everything around the content. And that's exactly what I found through this process. It's like the podcast is just the beginning, it's just the start, but really it's actually everything else that you have to do off the back of that is going to help you move the dial. And so that's how Capshow came about, combine this awesome use case of how do we help selfishly me, but also as a result, other podcasters to market their podcast. So that was one hand with my background, knowing about AI from, almost like from, over 10 years ago, and going, this is such a perfect use case for what it is that we're trying to do. And that's how Capshow started.
What I find interesting is, as I've started podcasting, is the entrepreneurs, the small business owners that have started businesses, is they are typically just like you, starting the business for themselves.
Yes.
And then it morphs into, well, let me go ahead and help everybody else that's out there, which I love because it benefits me. And so, Capshow, it truly is amazing. And so let's talk about the platform benefits that it is giving everyone out there, especially the podcasters, but anybody that's creating video content out there today.
Yeah. Yeah. So in short, I mean, like, so I'll talk about what Capshow does, and then we can go into like how it's helped people.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So basically what Capshow is you upload your audio or video episode. So yeah, to your point, any kind of long form, and we generally recommend anything longer than 15 minutes to an hour is kind of our sweet spot. So yeah, our Capshovians upload that, and in under 10 minutes, we create everything they need to market that episode. Right. Their title and description, their social media captions across all the different types of platforms, emails, LinkedIn article, YouTube description, blog posts, 4 types of blog posts. We also help on the creative side by way of smart identification. So we identify really compelling clips or sound bites. We identify YouTube segments. So like, how can people actually edit their longer form podcast episode down into really targeted 3 to 5 minute videos for YouTube? We identify quotes. We also have a short form script generator. So Capshow truly is a one-stop shop to get your marketing material just based on your anchor content, which is super cool. So that's what Capshow does. And we have had people who have had amazing results. So, J.R. Sparrow, for example, every time he uses Capshow, and he always sends me screenshots of this, his downloads are insane, like 10,000 plus, 10,000 on those episodes. I've had people whose email open rates have gone from, have literally tripled, gone from something like 23% to like 66%. People are like now actually not just growing their podcast, but they're also monetizing the actual content that Capshow creates. So we have a Capshovian who has gotten a sponsor for her blog post that Capshow creates off the back of her podcast. So it's actually amazing to see how people use it, and the results are all different because everyone, which is fair, like, and we say this all the time, focus on the things that you want to, that where your audience is. We're very, very specific about that. And so it's always really exciting to see that people are getting different results in all sorts of places, because it's like, yep, this is where I'm focusing on. And these are results that I'm getting. It's so cool. Like, we have 2 Capshovians actually who are now in the top 1% of podcasts, because they've been just really consistent with how they use Capsho. And I'd love to know from you, Tanya, like, how are you using it, and what are you seeing?
Yeah, so I think that's amazing, because even for me, since I've started using it, my downloads have increased. So what I do is, once they are downloaded into the 14 podcast channels, I also upload to YouTube. And what I have found is amazing is I'm getting more YouTube downloads that I am on the podcast side.
Yes.
And so I actually put them both links on social media channels. And so when I interview someone, Deidre, is I promote those entrepreneurs for a week. And this is something I've been testing, because I've wanted to come out with marketing packages to monetize my podcast. And so, I've been testing it for a couple of months now. And what I'm seeing is that since I've started using Capsho, I'm getting more downloads, and I've actually, some of the individuals that I'm marketing for are actually getting some reach outs and getting business since I've started using Capsho, and which I think is amazing. That's exactly
so
what
awesome.
I wanted to happen.
Yes.
And not only that, I am getting some additional reach outs for that. And I will tell you another thing that is happening is a lot of the algorithms for my social media is picking up. So I've won an award on social media as well. And so I think that there's a lot of things that are happening here as a result of using Capsho. Wow. So, I'm able to pull and utilize the social media piece for Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and the potent quotes.
Yes.
I've been able to take those, create images, and use an image from the individual that they have sent me to use on the YouTube thumbnail. I'm taking that, creating an image, using those in some of the social media as well, that, and then tagging the individual. So it's also getting, as I tag them, they are getting some social credit as well on their social medias, and they're getting quotes that they can use to put on anything that they want to use, that now they can say, I have quotes from myself. So there's a lot of things that Capsho is doing that other tools out there today aren't doing.
Yes.
But I've been able to increase in the last 30 days, I've been able to increase my subscribers by 25. Now, 25 may not sound like a lot to some people, but it's a lot to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, Capsho, in my opinion, is very much worth looking into and purchasing, in my opinion. But yeah. So let's go ahead and let's talk about one of the exciting things that's on the horizon for even the Capshovians Live that you've got going on in January 2024, right before the podcast or PodFest in Orlando. Could you tell us a little bit about this event and what the attendees can expect? Because as a Capshovian, I'm very excited about that event. So share with the listeners a little bit about that and what they could become a part of if they actually take advantage of Capsho.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I am actually personally so excited about this event. And I'm going to tell you, Tanya, I always thought that I would never put an event on. I was like, it's too much work. It's just, like all of the things. I was like, I just can't handle the logistics, all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, the more that I meet Capshovians like you and all the people at like either at a Podfest or Podcast Movement, any of the events, when I meet them in person, I just love that feeling. I give them a big old hug and, we just like chat for ages. And I'm like, this is just such an amazing community of people. And I just felt it in my bones that I needed to put something together that brought them meaningfully together. I just felt it and I just had to do it. And so, so that's basically the genesis of it. But really, I have kind of everything that I've learned in entrepreneurship, in marketing. It really boils down to one strategy, which when I unveil is people are going to be like, duh, of course this is like how we need to grow a podcast, grow a business. And the reason why it's a bit duh is because I simplify it so much to be like, what are the 3 things that you need to focus on? And how do I also get different perspectives on those things as well, to be like, I do some of my things a certain way, but I'm constantly learning. That's my podcast is very much like I'm on the journey with each and every one of you as well, because I'm never going to profess to be, I know it all and I've done it all. I've done some things well, I've done some things not so well. And so I can definitely share about that. But I really, really love showcasing and highlighting other people who are also on the journey, on the path in their specialty. And so I'm really excited about bringing together like a dozen speakers. It's one stage, it's one track. It's not like a conference where you have to choose, because it's very much for entrepreneurs who are looking to grow, who market their content, but are looking to use their content to grow their business. And so that's exactly what it is that we're going to be talking about. The one strategy to do that, and then diving deep with each of the speakers around the component parts of doing that. So really, really cool, valuable stuff. But I think the thing that I'm obviously most excited about is the networking that's going to happen. You got like each and every one of you are so smart, and so like you bring something so different. Even when we were having a chat before you pressed record on this, Tanya, like the things that you do and that you focus on, so many people need in this world, so many people. And so I'm actually really, really excited to be able to create that space where you can meet others who hopefully you guys can do some business together. That would be awesome.
One of the things about you doing this event, and even, being a Capshovian, is the networking that we get to do in your community, and then having the masterminds that you offer, and you bringing in all of these experts. And you talked about the experts that will be here speaking to us, and finding out how they use Capsho. And one of the things that I want to mention is the challenges that we have in learning how to do LinkedIn articles, how to do 4-post strategies, how to do how to video content.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, how to do all of these various things. Some of these things, if you're operationally technology inclined, like some of us, and I'll say myself, some of us can go figure it out, but there's people who can't. And, the blog posts, all of those things that Capsho brings to us, just knowing, and as we're learning what's hot out there, it seems like, Deidre, just like this weekend, the speaking conference that I was at, we had a guest speaker there, and she talked about, if you're not doing LinkedIn articles, you are missing out. You are missing out on business opportunities. You're missing out on coaching opportunities. You're missing out on networking opportunities. I mean, she just went on and on and on about all the things you're missing out on. And while I've played around with LinkedIn articles, I went through the challenge. I've had so many other things on my task list that I've not launched my first LinkedIn article. And so I've written down, that is a must for me within the next 7 days. Tanya, you have to get busy and launch your first LinkedIn article. What are the things I've missed out on? I continue to hear what I'm missing out on, and how many hundreds, I'm going to say hundreds, because that's what I keep hearing, of how many connections I'm missing out on because I have not launched my first, my second, my third LinkedIn article. And so I say that to everyone who's listening, because I've not launched it, I'm missing out. And then what are you missing out on because you've not launched that blog? What are you missing out on because you've not launched that email campaign? And CapShow provides all of those things. You know, I've been focused on video content, but because I'm focusing all of my time on video, I need to, and I've done this, I've taken my calendar and, you know, Tuesdays are for podcast interviewing. Wednesdays are for, you know, this. And I've divided my calendar out. And now I've got to go back and tweak that and say, on Mondays, here's a spot for LinkedIn articles. And so you've got to go back and you've got to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so, but CapShow, one tool helps you create so much content. And then if you can automate those things, look at the hours that you're saving. So, I mean, and you're going to be able to provide so much information at that show.
Yes.
And so, I mean, you're a genius in my opinion.
Oh, no, thank you. You're awesome. It's really, you know, this is why I love the community, because it is people like you, Tanya, that like, this is why we do what we do. You know, it's so easy as entrepreneurs sometimes to fall into our own, you know, we get into our heads about things and we can fall into our own ruts about it. But being surrounded by people like you, that's what keeps us going. This is why we do what we do.
Yeah. So, you know, your journey into the tech industry, share with us some key experiences that have shaped you into the successful CEO that you are today.
Oh gosh. There's so many, and so many of them I've had to work on, you know, because we're all on our different journeys. We're all in our different paths. We all have different starting points as well. My starting point has definitely helped shape what it was that I needed to really step into. So things like, for example, you know, Asian background. My parents were first migrants into Australia. And with that comes a lot of pressure. So for me, I was always, you know, I was tutored from an early age. I was expected to do certain things. That was it just came with the territory. And I was raised in a certain way, you know, like I wasn't there to take up space. I was there to respect my elders. I was, you know, all these things that I had to unlearn a lot of the way in this entrepreneurship journey. I had to learn how to take up space, and it's okay to take up space because each and every one of us on this entrepreneurship journey have a really important message that we need to get out there. And to do that, we need to take up space, you know, for me, again, coming from that first migrant, you know, my parents were always working, you know, it felt like we never had enough money, all of that. And so I carry with me a lot of money mindset issues. And that is, you know, when you're trying to grow a business and you're trying to take risks and things like that, it's really hard to, it's very easy to let those things get in the way of growth. And so I had to let go of a lot of things like that. And so for me, you know, everything in my journey, like even all the failures that we've had, you know, we've had to, even though we grew our hospitality businesses, we also had to shut down stores because we couldn't meet rent, and we couldn't, you know, there were a ton of really, really hard things that we had to go through as well. At the time, I hated it. Obviously, none of us, and I would never wish this on anyone. You know, you don't want to be under this insane amount of stress and pressure. But the great things I've learned through that there's always a way out. And in fact, it's not even just like there's always a way out, but it's actually so much better going through that and being on the other side. And so that in and of itself gives me the confidence to know that whatever challenges that we face now, it's okay. Like I can back myself to that we will get out of it. And not only will we get out of it, but we'll be even bigger and better when we do. So I think that's just a ton of, like, for me, it was never just one thing that, it's a accumulation of everything. And I firmly believe that whatever journey each and every one of us on, whatever path each and every one of us on, is the one that we need to be on in order to get to where we want to be.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And I think new entrepreneurs need to hear that, and don't be afraid to take the risk, because, failure is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's pick yourself back up and move yourself around and just keep going. Don't give up.
For sure.
Don't give up. The podcast industry is constantly evolving, moving around.
Mm-hmm.
How does CapShow stay ahead of the curve and adapt into these emerging trends?
Yeah. So we are very, and you would know this being a CapShovian, but we are very, very, how do I say this? Like close or aligned to, or, very on, in our CapShovians' pockets, if that makes sense. That sounds bad, but it sounds weird. But we are always constantly speaking to our CapShovians. We're constantly asking for feedback. We're constantly seeing how they're using CapShow, what they want to be using it for. Because at the end of the day, we just want to build the best product, the solution for our CapShovians. And so that's just how we're going to keep, staying ahead. Because yes, a trend might come out. Threads came out, for example, on Instagram, and it's like, do we jump on it and try to be? We could, but that, with everything that we focus on or that we make a decision to do takes up resources, time on our development team and for us, and also money. And so we have to be very, very intentional to be like, let's not be those people who just like jump on something for the sake of it. Let's see and be intentional with how it is that we would use it strategically based on how our CapShovians use it. And then if there's that demand, then yes, we will invest the time and the money and the resources to make it happen. But that's fundamentally how we are going to be innovating, definitely going forward.
That's one of the things that I think is so awesome about you, Bonna, Ash, is especially when we come together and someone throws out an idea or we ask for a change, you guys are always there listening and like you said, asking for our feedback, and quick. May not always be able to be so quick, as you grow, but you're so open to what we need, what we're looking for, what are our expectations from you all, and there to help us do our jobs, to put out great content and to help us be our best to our clients. And man, we couldn't ask for any better CEOs and COOs and content creators to work with. You guys are phenomenal. So for those that may not be familiar with AI powered copywriting, can you explain how CapShow's AI technology works to assist podcasters and content creators in creating compelling content?
Yeah, for sure. So I remember getting asked this back in January. Actually, it was Podfest of January 2023, and at that time, ChatGPT had just really burst into the scene. They were really making their mark in the especially December, January time. And I remember being at Podfest, and people would be like, "Oh, so what is the difference between CapShow and ChatGPT?" And the way that I described it was like, a ChatGPT is a very general AI. It kind of goes out into the world, the internet, all of the content on the internet, and it basically brings back what it thinks is in its decision-making process, the best answer to the question that was being asked or posed to it. Whereas Capsho, it's a very narrow, very specific AI, which is really centered around your content. So your anchor content, the podcast, whether it's video, audio that you put into Capsho is really what it leans on to create all of the marketing assets for you. And so it's very specific AI. So basically how it works is that we leverage large language models, but we have our own machine learning capabilities that we're building on top of those to essentially make it a narrow AI, and that will actually help us scale and in different ways. So we have some really exciting things coming in the next 12 to 18 months around how we help our Capshovians, not just with creating marketing assets, but how do we actually help them with even, how do I say it, like intelligent decision-making capabilities. So we're really going to be leaning into that more and more going forward, which I'm really excited about.
That's awesome. I want to share something that that has really made a difference for me on my YouTube videos. I have gone back, we've talked a lot here lately about repurposing content. And I've just really been on a mission to get more eyes on my content. And I have, I sat down recently and created 10 goals for the next 12 months. And one of those goals is increasing my community by a certain number and increasing my YouTube subscribers by a certain number. And so with one of those things, it's repurposing some of the videos that are out there and using Capsho to repurpose those has been one of them. And so in addition to Capsho, I purchased TubeBuddy to assist with that.
Mm-hmm.
And Deidre, I want to tell you something, and this is how powerful Capsho is. So I'm going to give you guys another plug. So listen to me, audience. If you don't have Capsho, you need Capsho. But this is how powerful it is. So, in using TubeBuddy, you can get a score for your video, using for SEO purposes. And so just because I'm such a curious person, I want to rank it once to see how low it is. And then I want to rank it again after I use Capsho. And I want to tell you, some of them have been ranking in the 40s and 50s. But then after I go and rerun it through Capsho and give it a better thumbnail, Deidre, they're ranking in the 90s. And one of them ranked over 100.
No way.
Yes way. And they are getting overnight, the views are going up overnight. And I can't tell you how exciting that is to me. And that has also been part of my new subscribers. And yes, so using Capsho and repurposing, and I was using another tool before I joined Capsho. I was using Cast Magic, and I had told my podcast producer, we're moving 100% to Capsho. And so, yes, I'm telling you, that's how much I believe in the AI, humanistic, if you will,
yes,
from running those videos through Capsho. It is increasing, it's increasing the score that much on YouTube. So I've said to myself, if it will increase my YouTubes that much, how much more can I believe in it to do my Facebook post, emails, and other social media? So I just had to share with you that it's raising the scores, 40, 50 points.
So thank you.
You're
You just made my
welcome.
day. You just made my day.
So, podcasters come in all shapes and sizes, from solo creators to large media networks. How does CapShow cater to the diverse needs of this growing community? I shared a little bit about how it does for me as a fairly new entrepreneur. I'm 4.5 years in. So that's probably the lower range scale. And I know you've got influencers that are been in business, much greater than me, but share with us the diverse needs of growing community and how CapShow caters to all of those sizes of businesses.
Yeah. I mean, the really cool thing about, you mentioned that, where you are and where a lot of our other, some of our other Capshovians are, and there are some who are even newer than you, so, from an entrepreneurship and how long they've been entrepreneurs or even podcasters, it does really vary. There's such a wide range. But the great thing is that you all have something in common, which is that you're incredibly smart, expert entrepreneurs. You have this message that needs to get out there. And I firmly, firmly believe that. And you're intentional about how you do it. Even all the things that you were saying, like the fact that you will use a TubeBuddy to score, how you're doing on YouTube. Not everyone does that. Some people are so not intentional that they'll just be like, I'm just going to slap a YouTube video. And it's a great way to get started. Just do it. But then all of you, what I found as a common factor of Capshovians is that you're also intentional with, hey, I want to do this for a purpose. I want to use these platforms because not just to be on them. I don't want to just be on YouTube, and I don't want to just be on LinkedIn. But if I'm going to be on them, I'm going to do it well. I want to actually get found. I want to get discovered. I want to grow my community and give to my audience. And that's what we found has been the magic of, the diverse by way of yes, you're all at all different stages of entrepreneurship. And obviously you all do different things and you focus on different areas. But really, there's this one core, and that's really who we speak to when we distill it down to, we speak to our Capshovians are people who invest in themselves and, in a tool like CapShow, because again, we're not the cheapest on the market, and that's by design, because we want to be serving people who care. Fundamentally, they care. They care about their content. They care about what they're putting out there. They care about their audience. They just care. And that's that aligns with us because we put so much care into our AI and in help and in the things that we generate. Like that, when you tell me a story like that, like how it's helped you, I'm like, it makes my day, because it just validates that all of the extra time and the sweat and tears and literally that we put into it, it's working and it's for a reason and it's genuinely helping you. So I don't know if that quite answers your question, but I just wanted to acknowledge. Yeah.
It does. Sometimes I think, okay, I'm going slower maybe than some other people, but I'm figuring things out.
Yes.
And so I'm like, oh, I'm okay that maybe I'm going a little bit slower, but I'm figuring things out. And so the clients that are hiring me, I can actually show them the things that are working. Yeah. And so I feel good about that.
Yeah.
I feel real good about that.
You should. Definitely. I know that even you were mentioning all these things that you might be missing out on. And yes, I mean, obviously, if we had the bandwidth and the team and the money to be able to be on it, then also, but a lot of times we don't. And so what you're doing it the right way, which is, hey, let me just figure out this YouTube thing, for example, and then really get, good at it. And then it's okay. Now let me do my LinkedIn article. And start to get really good at that. Focus is that is the number one thing that we need to have as entrepreneurs. I learned that the hard way. and I still struggle at it, by the way. So I say that I'm an expert, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am not, focus is hard for me, but it is so important for us to be able to succeed in anything. So you are 100% doing it the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So there's just a couple of other things I want to ask you before we have to end this podcast. What are some of the biggest challenges that podcasters face today? And how can CapShow help them overcome these challenges.
Yeah.
I know we've talked about a few things, but is there anything specific that you can think is just the biggest thing that Capsho can help somebody overcome?
So I think more and more, if I even project forward, and I talk a lot about this around with AI and how prevalent AI is going to be in all industries, but especially the podcasting one, how it is that we need to keep our humanness throughout all of this, and what it is that AI is there to help us do versus not. And so I am a big believer, and you know this, Tanya, about how at the end of the day, we're creating content for a reason. We're creating content to build our audience, but importantly, to connect with them. That's the only way you're going to build your audience. You have to connect with them. And connection comes in a variety of ways. Connection comes in the fact that you're sharing your stories and your expertise, and, how, like, you're showing you authentically. AI can replace it, and some people are using it in that way. But I draw the line there, and I'm like, no, this has to be you. This has to be on the human. And then, where AI really comes in, the power of it is in the repurposing part, like what it is that Capsho does, because that's where you can get the efficiency. Yes, you still have to be involved in that process. As I said, all AI, you should look at it as it'll get me 80% of the way there, but I still need to go in and do the last 20% to be able to keep creating that connection with my audience, regardless of the platform that you're on. And so what the really cool, like where I see it really helping us uplift is in how it's going to help us save time. It's going to help us save time and help us put more content out there. Not in the way that I call the content vomit way. Like that's just, when you're just blindly like just copy and paste. You almost don't care what the AI is giving you. You're just going to put it out there. That's what I call content vomit. But I know that our Capshovians are like, they're intentional, and they do put in that last 10 to 20%. And so you can put more out in less time. And so what do we do with that time? I get asked this quite a bit. Like, yes, you can use that to grow your business. You can use that to, spend time with your family. Where I put it, because I love creating content, is back into my content. I'm always constantly thinking, and this is to come back to your question about what is it that podcasters should be thinking about, and how this industry is going to be impacted, is that AI is going to make it a lot easier for many more people to create content, including a podcast. So now it's going to be about how do we actually differentiate our content and how do we make it even better? That's a challenge that I kind of put down to all podcasters. And so, for me, if I use my own podcast as an example, I do narrative style podcasts. So I'll have guests on, but I'll narrate over and I'll join the dots, and I'll put in my own stories in amongst that as well, and anything that I've actually encountered. And that's me thinking about how do I level up my content so that I can continue to create that connection and hopefully create better quality connection with my audience, because so much more of it has been systemized through technology, through AI, etc. So that's always what I think about, is how do we as content creators really focus on just continuing to level up what it is that we're creating, because at the end of the day, that's the only way that we're going to be able to continue to grow and evolve, is to keep leveling up.
For me, I'm going to say that one of the biggest challenges that it helped me with was no longer staring at a blank screen, piece of paper.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, time was one, but no longer staring at that blank screen.
Yes.
And in three ways, you always hear marketers say that there's certain ways you have to communicate. We need that promotional post. We need that engagement post, and we need that educational post. And I was always like, okay, what do I need to say to be promotional and not be salesy?
Yes.
How do I need to engage my audience and not say too much or say too little? And then how do I educate and not be too lengthy?
Yes.
But say enough. And wow, you do it all for me. I don't have to think anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have to think. And you give me options, 3 or 4 options, and all I have to do is press a button and you give me all of the emojis to go with it. I don't have to think and look down the list anymore. It's all there. And so for me, the blank stare at the paper, trying to think that what used to take me an hour to an hour and a half to do 2 lines is gone. It's push a button, it's there, and it's done. And so that, I have to say, is probably the biggest challenge that you fixed for me.
That's amazing. Awesome. I'm
It
going to
is
use that.
amazing.
I'm going to use your testimonial on our website, Tonya, for sure.
You go right ahead. You go right ahead. If we need to clip this part of the video out just for that, we can do that.
I'm taking you up on that.
Yes. Well, I tell you, or I can re-record it, but that, I tell you, that was huge for me. And so, okay, I know that we're out of time. I want to ask you just real quickly, where can people connect with you if, number one, they want to purchase CapShow, number 2, if they want to go to the live event, and if they want to connect with you on social media?
Yes. All right. Awesome. So, Tonya, I know that you're a Capture Connector. You're an ambassador of ours. So I'm going to have you leave your link for people to get into CapShow on here. So the link will give you some really cool bonuses. So A, it'll give you an extended free trial, but B, it will also give you a bit of a mini course that I've done on how to get discovered and how to get visible on places like social media using, things that are at our disposal, like search. I mean, that is such a powerful thing. And that's what you're leaning into with YouTube, for example. So definitely get in, use Tonya's link to get the extended free trial of CapShow. So that's the first thing. If you want to learn more about CapShow Events Live, you can do that at capshoweventslive.com. And you'll be able to see some of the speakers that we have that we're going to be featuring and some of the cool things that you're going to get out of coming to the event. So we would love for you to be there, anyone listening to this. And if you want to connect with me directly, my main platforms are LinkedIn or Facebook. So definitely come find me there, connect with me. It's Deirdre Shen, which is not the easiest name to, but DIRDRETSHIEN. You can come find me, and I'd love to connect.
Deirdre, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a pleasure to have you on the episode today. I cannot tell you how much I love CapShow, how much I love you, and I appreciate you being here for the 100th episode. If you have not already subscribed to our channels, be sure that you do that. And if you've not already joined our Influence and Growth Mastery Facebook group, be sure that you do that, where we help you grow and monetize your visibility and influence without creating overwhelm. And we are excited to have you there. We are going to be moving that to a group app very shortly. But until then, go ahead and join us there. Have a great day. And again, thank you for helping us celebrate our 100th anniversary. And so thrilled to have you in our audience.